I thought I'd just put together this video to walk you through my experience of coaches up until this point. My name is Tyson Knopf, so I work specifically with coaches and helping them to connect with executives. And I've been doing this for the last 4 years. And so it wasn't until recently I thought I should put together a video in terms of how to help executives in the selection process when it comes to coaches, because it can be kind of overwhelming in terms of finding a coach. Oftentimes, the people that get referred to my coaches that we find that I work with are usually referred by friend, like, hey, after hearing their life story and the struggles they're going through, they're like, hey, you need to hire a life coach, and then they go out and find a life coach, or you need to find a coach generally, and then they end up kind of stumbling into whatever coach that or whoever they're referred to. Um, the goal of this video is to kind of empower you a bit more in terms of what's out there in terms of coaches, and then what's the typical relationship look like, or what are the options of relationships in terms of coaches look like, and how do you validate, or how do you have that conversation with the coach, and what are the types of things to ask and look for in that first conversation. So happy to walk you through this. I hope you find some value in this process of what I've kind of found. I've connected with thousands, like literally thousands of coaches over the last 4 years of working just specifically with coaches. And so I've worked with them day in and day out, both as someone that's providing them some coaching advice in terms of connecting with clients, and helping them through that process. So I hope this gives you an inside scoop as well. So when it comes to coaches, here, I'll just share my screen here. When it comes to coaches, really it goes down to kind of four main categories, what I found just through my experience in terms of the types of coaches that there are. You've got your career coaches, and I've worked with several of these where their role is to find or help you to understand what industry you're in, what type of advancement you want to make, or taking that pivot from one industry to another, which can be intimidating. They're there to help you through that process. And so, what I found with those career coaches is, their strengths typically lie in the interview process. So, how to tell your story and stick with the story in the interview process instead of, going in and having to shift gears multiple times and make it hard to follow for those people that are doing the interview. And then how to really take those strengths if you're going and pivoting from one industry to another, because there's more opportunities there, or what have you, taking those things that you've learned and being able to translate those into the new industry, where you can go into that interview with confidence, and that person interviewing you can see that you know what you're talking about and what's most important, and that's really the people aspect as well. So the career coaching side is a variety of different areas to, helping you to advance as well. How do you express yourself in a way that gets that acknowledgement? How do you work with your confidence and being able to ask for more in terms of pay, or being able to acknowledge the strengths that you have, and how do you exhibit that with your leaders that you work with, and that sort of thing. The other side, you got your life coaches, and that's this one. These life and leadership coaches tend to kind of cross over each other a bit. Life coach, of course, that's kind of like your person that's there to help you with looking at balancing your work life with your family life, or it could be finding ways to be able to come across, confident, but also do those things that bring confidence into your life, and putting together a vision of what you want your life to look like. So it crosses over in that your vision's gonna encompass your family life, it's gonna encompass your career, all those types of things. And so that's where you see a lot of life coaches on that side, because it does cover a lot of ground in that aspect. Leadership coaching, that's specifically for those that are wanting to advance, or those that are wanting to be able to anchor themselves in their role as a leader. It could be that you just got into a role and you're kind of feeling like you're kind of in over your head in terms of, oh wow, I don't feel like I belong here, or something like that. Um, and helping you to realize that, those feelings are okay. You just have to separate them from yourself and look at it from the outside perspective, and not let it fester inside you. There's lots of different strategies they have for that type of piece, but for leadership, it's really helping you to really feel anchored in your role, and helping you to gain that confidence where you feel that way, and then taking those leadership traits and qualities that you're wanting to adapt, and in being able to guide you through that process of being able to grow into that leadership role. So leadership coaching, you'll see that crossover with life coaching. And then lastly, you got sales coaching. That's very specific. So these two edge ones, like career coaching and sales coaching, I don't see often having coaches that cross over into other realms. It's typically they're either a sales coach or a career coach. They don't really cross over because they're very specific for the need. And sales coaches, they often work with teams or they work with individuals or leaders and sales leaders that are wanting to continue to kind of sharpen their saw and keep their skills up in terms of sales, or how to be able to coach sales into their team. And what are the traits that you need to have, and what are the focuses and models that you want to use. So you'll see those areas as well. There may be four of those. I'd be happy to get your comments too if you find that, Tyson didn't really talk about this in terms of this type of style of coach. There's a lot of different coaches out there, but if there's others, by all means, I'd love to hear what your experience has been as well too. But those, from the coaches I've worked with, they typically fall into these bins. Now, when it comes to, say you find these coaches, you move forward, what does that relationship look like? You either have kind of the fixer coach, and their role is to go in, there's a specific problem that you have, they fix it, they move on, they're happy to get testimonial from you, that sort of thing, but they really are mostly happy about, solving your problem. And then they move on. The other is you have your ongoing coach, which they're more of like a co-pilot to your vision in life to help keep you on track. And those are ones that, they may not be as intensive. It may be spread out where they're checking in with you on your vision, or they may be intensive at the beginning, but it's kind of spreads out as time goes on. Or maybe, you go from checking in with them every other week to checking with them once a month or once a quarter. I've worked with coaches in those arenas as well. Most of the coaches I work are fixer coaches, just because of the nature of going and solving someone's problem and having to find another client. My role is helping coaches to find clients. And so typically I tend to work with a lot of fixer coaches, but I do work with several ongoing coaches too, just because depending on the type of problem that the executive or the executive like yourself has, it may fall into a fixer scenario, or may fall into like, okay, I want you to help me carry out that vision. So, and you'll get an understanding of this, but you're really the guide in terms of how this relationship works with the coach. Coaches, well, you'll kind of get an understanding of their style in terms of if they were looking at specifics. Okay, what's a specific problem? Then they typically fall into a fixer scenario. But if the problem that you have is more of a longer term problem, then they'll help you on an ongoing basis as well. So when it comes to being able to go through that selection process of being able to find that coach that really meets the needs that you have, really the best coaches that I found are those coaches that are really able to clearly articulate where you are now and what that looks like in terms of whatever dollar figures, your team size, your advancement, and how recent your advancements have been, to where you want to be. So, I want to be able to be at this level career-wise, or I really want to find this joy in these areas, or I'm struggling to find joy in these areas. How do I want to get to the level where I'm happy with my career, I'm happy with what I'm doing. And so they're really good kind of establishing where you are, where you want to be, and what the gap is in between, and really allowing you to guide that conversation, releasing that power back to you to tell them whether or not you need help. That's really the best coach out there. And they don't really, you don't feel like a sales process is being followed with it, because they're so focused on, okay, where you are, where you want to be, okay, and what's stopping you from getting there on your own. And once that's clearly articulated, then you know whether or not you need a coach. And the best coaches walk you through that process that way. And they're good at being able to establish that understanding, and either exiting if not being a part of your life if you don't need them, but also giving you the opportunity to bring them into your life if that gap makes sense for you. So when you're going through that first interview, is you really understand, do they have a clear vision of, or are they really seeking out an understanding of where I am now, and what that looks like in fine detail, and where do I want to be, and what does that look like in fine detail, and establishing and also releasing the power back to me to decide if the gap is big enough for me to need their help, or if it's narrow enough that I can get over that gap myself with enough effort. Those are the best coaches to look for. Those are the ones to have conversations with. And those are the types of conversations you want to drive them to, as well. So I'm here to, a lot of the work I do is helping to connect coaches and executives together. If looking through this, you're like, yeah, this makes sense. I'd love to pick Tyson's brain a bit more. By all means, reach out to me. I'm happy to have that conversation with you in terms of, okay, what is it you're looking to do? And I've worked personally with hundreds of coaches over the last 4 years, where we meet weekly and go through a lot of the types of clients that they're wanting to work with. So happy to connect you as well and refer you to them based off of what you're needing. So feel free to reach out to me. I hope this video helps, and look forward to being connected and being a part of your network. Take care.